Oh, and Jenna Bush, no one wants to read with you. Stop! Hello everybody, welcome to the Mild Rumpus, coming at you live from the House of Flimsy, my dilapidated one-bedroom apartment here in New York City that is filled with books and noise. Today is Tuesday, which could mean only one thing. It's time for a tag. A few days ago, Melinda over at A Web of Stories recorded this video where she talked about bookish things that just annoy the crap out of her. And then Kelly over at Books I'm Not Reading took that video and weaponized it, which is a new term to me, and turned it into a tag. And then Melinda took that tag and tagged me. It's kind of like John Waters' Hairspray. It's a whole thing. Now, I don't mean to boast, but I have a feeling I am going to kill this tag because complaining is my favorite pastime. There's not much I can offer this world, but there are a few things I have in spades, and that is opinions and a big mouth. So this prompt consists of 10 questions about bookish things that may or may not annoy us. Question number 1. Do publishers ever do things that you find annoying? Oh, let me count the ways. You know when you have that friend or family member you haven't seen in a while, and you look at them and you say, something's different. Might have had a little work done, a little nip, a little tuck, little changes, subtle. I mean, you can barely tell she had work done. Who is her doctor? If you've been a reader for any amount of time, especially if you like the classics, chances are you have quite a few of these floating around. I've seen people on BookTube who have shelves of nothing but Penguin classics, and this must really annoy them. There was a uniformity to these books. The author's name was in orange, the title was italicized in white, thin white band with the orange penguin logo in the middle. Same story on the side. On the new editions, all of the text is white. There's no italics. There is a new orange line that separates the author from the title. The band is thicker, and there is no orange circle around the penguin. Same story on the spine. So now, all those people who had shelves and shelves of Penguin classics have to deal with this. They're completely mismatched now. One thing that I learned about myself by doing this tag is that as a consumer, I'm really drawn to some sort of element of uniformity in the design of the cover art, the book jacket. Let me show you an example of this because I'm a sucker for this sort of thing. Faber and Faber put out these little novellas and short stories under Faber Editions. And on the right-hand side of their cover art, they always have this black band that says Faber Editions. And when I see this, the completist in me wants them all. Last year I got into E.M. Forster because I like the design from Vintage on their books. Each author has his own little color story. They have a series of colored diamonds on the spines. That's what drew it to me. So imagine my annoyance when I got a passage from India, and can you tell? This is orange and this is some sort of maroon color. Here's Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, also released by Vintage Classics. You can see they carried on with the diamonds on the side, different color combo. But what annoys me about Jane Austen's books through this company is that when it comes to Emma, they have a movie tie-in sticker that is printed on the jacket. You can't remove it. And that just kills it for me. The same thing happened to me with John Wyndham. I bought all these really cool UK Penguin editions, love the cover art. Then I get to the Midwich Cuckoos. Why? Oh, and Jenna Bush, no one wants to read with you. Stop it! And I hate to even bring this one up because I really do worship at the altar of McNally Jackson. Even though the Strand bookstore is probably like New York's official bookstore, I just love McNally Jackson. I love their stores. I love how they organize their books. It's not always crowded. One of the main things that really kind of pushes them over the edge for me is that they publish their own books. Very similar to the Faber editions, they have a series of books called McNally editions where there are novellas and short stories that have just kind of been forgotten or are really obscure. And when they first started publishing them, they had this beautiful design where there was a glossy wraparound on this paperback book, and each one had a number. And then on the back of the book, there was a quote. So like the first year, this is how all of the books looked. And then when it was time to release the second round of books, They hit us with a completely new design. There's no wraparound. The quotes on the back are gone. They do have French flaps, which is nice. I mean, they're very high quality books, don't get me wrong, and I like them. I'm not dumping on them. But this was really unique and really special. It was also probably really expensive, which is why we have this. Number 2, have you ever been annoyed by a spoiler? Do you remember when Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died was first released? It sold out immediately. And if you wanted a physical copy, it was on back order for a real long time. I finally got my hands on a copy at Strand, and it is signed, but it's a 5th edition. So I had to wait around for quite a while to actually get a physical copy. And in the meantime, she was working it. She was going on every talk show, every podcast. And by the time I got the physical book in my hand, all the revelations really weren't that salacious or shocking because I had already heard them like 3 or 4 times. Number 3, have you ever been annoyed by what you discovered in a little free library or used bookstore? So we don't really have those adorable little free libraries that you see in the YouTube videos, like in suburban neighborhoods and public libraries. Most of the time here, we will like commandeer a newspaper dispenser, or someone will set out a bookcase on the sidewalk and it's, take a book, leave a book type situation. But people will like purposely destroy those bookcases, and I don't understand why. If you're lucky, those bookcases might last a month, but 9 times out of 10, by the end of the week, it looks like a demolition derby took place. It's obviously very intentional that someone is destroying the bookcases. And then one time we had this religious nut who was camped out in front of the bookcase for a few days. She went through the books, and she had a pen, a ballpoint pen, and she would scratch out the cuss words, and she would write Bible verses in the books. And this book actually fell victim to her. It was a coffee table book by Mark Ryden, The Tree Show. Victoria isn't a newt. Why is her baby naked? And she drew panties on the baby. Number 4, when it comes to short story collections, are you annoyed if there's a novella in the middle of the collection? I don't think I've ever encountered that. So no. Number 5, deckled edges, beautiful or annoying? But you know what? Forget about deckled edges. Let's talk about sprayed edges. Here's my hot take. What was once beautiful and luxe and special has now become common, and it just, to me, it's starting to look cheap. As for deckled edges, give me some texture. I'm not mad at a deckled edge. Number 6, other people's annotations in a used book or library book. Annoying, or are you okay with it? I think that if it's a used book, if someone else owns the book, that's okay. But a library book, absolutely not. And I think that if someone does that and we find out who they are, we should just go to their living room and take a see how they like it. Personally, I would never write in a book. That's just me. I don't have anything against people who do. For me as a reader, it would take me out of the story to make notes and to highlight and to do the little tabs. I just started doing the tabs since I started this channel so that when I do the book wrap-ups, I can talk about passages that I really enjoyed, and then I take notes in this little notebook. But yeah, I could never write in a book. When I went to Anne Rice's place, I know that she had 2 copies of every book in her library, one that she would annotate and one that she would keep in mint condition. I think that's the only way that I could ever do that. But I'd have to hit the jackpot first because I don't have room for 2 copies of every book. Absolutely not. Number 7, if there is a series or a collection of certain kinds of books and changes are made, are you annoyed or okay with it? I'm annoyed. The book that I was thinking of was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. That series was huge as a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s. And one of the things that drew us to those books were those scary illustrations, which are truly masterpieces. And then recently I saw that they re-released the books with these very lame, safe illustrations. There was nothing, menacing at all. And why even bother? And then also, I'm just not a fan of sanitizing books or rewriting books to kind of fit today's sensibilities. I think especially in the climate that we are in now, where schools are facing all kinds of pressure to remove books or ban books, that we as readers put books that make us feel uncomfortable or uneasy in context, looking at when it was written, what was going on at the time. And if you're feeling upset about the book, then have the conversation. right? That's the point of great art, is to generate conversation, not to provide answers, but to raise questions. So the last example I heard of this was like Roald Dahl. They were going to change some of the language in his books. I think he might have used the word fat or ugly, and they were going to put out different versions of the books. And yeah, I don't like that. I really don't like it when the author is dead and they're not around to consent to those changes, because that's their work, that's their art, you know. Number 8, do the decisions of characters in a novel ever annoy you? Well, it's not a novel, and not to beat a dead horse, but The Giving Tree, The Little Boy in the Giving Tree. Go watch my Girl Scout cookie tag video to hear that rant, because I'm not going through it again. Number 9, are you ever annoyed by how someone organizes their books? What do you find annoying? I can't stand it when the books are just disheveled. Like, they might be organized, but some are like leaning over or stacked on top, and I'm guilty of it sometimes too. But you know, when you just look at a bookshelf and it's a mess, I don't like that. Also, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of the rainbow. When I see a rainbow shelf, I do pass judgment. You're prioritizing aesthetics over the actual reading. And I mean, I've heard people be like, oh, I had to buy this book because I needed that shade of da-da-da. No, you don't want to be that person. Don't be that person. All right, final question. Here we go. Number 10, share something bookish that you find annoying. This is super random. You know when people buy their books on that website, thriftbooks.com, and there's that little thin white strip that they put on the spines that has the barcode? I don't understand why people leave that on their books. I can't tell you how many bookshelf tour videos I've watched on YouTube and have just seen like multiple books that have the sticker on it. I'm like, I want to get at it. I mean, is it a choice? Because it seems like an aesthetic choice now. And I don't understand that. That does it for all the prompts. I got some people I want to tag, but before we do that, little housekeeping. Feed the algorithm. It's annoying, I know, but do it anyway. Okay, these are the people I would like to tag. Billy and Noel over at Those Book People. I discovered them yesterday. They're a lot of fun. The Curated Reading Room, Literature Bay, and Not Another Book Review. Tag you or it. If you're watching this video, if you want to get something off your chest, if you're feeling hot and bothered, tag you or it. I am looking forward to hearing all of the things that aggravate you. Until then, happy reading. Bye.